talking about television, the new ITV drama, Breathtaking, starring Joanne Froggatt, started last night. So it tells the story of Dr. Abby Henderson, a hospital consultant who is on the front line of the pandemic. It's a real reminder, actually, of the huge impact of the COVID pandemic.
The NHS gets all the support it needs to continue their brilliant response to the virus so far.
There are actually 3 suspected COVID cases, not 2. My team saw a case in the cold zone presenting with no travel history. He experienced a respiratory arrest and he's now in ITU.
If the NHS became overwhelmed, then people would die from indirect deaths because they did not have the ability to get medical care.
I do think, looking at it all, that we can turn the tide within the next 12 weeks.
Gosh, I mean, they've called it breathtaking. I have to say, Janet, when I watched it, I did feel myself a bit breathless and a bit panicked and, you know, being reminded of that time, because sometimes I forget what was happening. And then you just saw that there. It was quite frantic, wasn't it?
Yeah,
the way it was done.
I felt this was a brilliant piece of television in so many ways. It conveyed the horror of being absolutely on the front line in a hospital. It showed how things, you just weren't prepared. No matter how much you thought you were prepared, you weren't prepared enough. And then all the layers of bureaucracy about not being denied the correct equipment and being told to buy it on Amazon. That was all fantastic. And, of course, it was written based on a book by a doctor and co-written with Jed Mercurio, who wrote Line of Duty. He wrote it with people who were doctors too. So it was very well informed and correct in all the medical detail. But what I think it lacked was the backstory of the people. And Joanne Froggatt is a brilliant actress in so many ways. And you really want to, you know, she specialises in creating characters you really, really care about. I just felt with this that it had all the impetus, all the momentum. We were moving somewhere all the time and it was all ghastly. Was it a great piece of drama? I don't really know. But what it made me do was go back to my own phone and look at what I was doing at the same time as this was happening. And, of course, I think, like so many people, what you're aware of is the fact that one minute you're leading a normal life and you're looking at your photos with friends and so on, and you're out, you're having lunch or you're walking the dog, and then suddenly there's just you and your partner and the dog, and everything has ground to a grisly halt, and you're isolated. And it brought all that back to me.
Yeah, when you said that this morning, I was like, actually, I haven't looked back at my phone. And I looked back at my phone, because I do remember it was my birthday, the 17th of March, and Eamon took me out to this restaurant that we go to a lot, particularly on St Patrick's Day, because it's run by an Irish chef and the crack is mighty, as they say. And it's normally heaving and everyone's having a great time. And there were, like, 6 people in there. So we arrived, thinking, you know, we'd phoned to say, "Are you open?" They were like, yes, we're open. But they had just told the staff that day, or, you know, everything was closing. And so it was just off Regent Street and everything was quiet. And it was just the weirdest feeling for everybody. And I felt embarrassed to be in, you know, kind of trying to celebrate my birthday when the staff had been told, sorry, but, you know, we're having to close and they've got nothing to go to. And then the following week, it says in my diary, lockdown started. You know, and it's kind of, it seems so long ago, but I think it's not. And watching that drama last night and just seeing the panic, it was just panic. Did you feel that panic?
I mean, horrendous. And goosebumps, actually, I had when I was watching it. And I think for a lot of people who were so unbelievably lucky to be, like myself and my partner, quite disconnected from what was going on the front line, because, you know, I was never in hospital, or my family members weren't, and we didn't have any nurses or doctors in the family. So I think we're so desensitised to seeing horrendous things on the news, especially during COVID. Every day was the story. We almost became just background noise. It was always on. But to see it kind of performed like that, I mean, it immerses you into what it was like when you didn't see it with your own eyes, I think was very educational.
It's
and
a bit like Mr. Bates versus the Post.
Yeah, exactly. It brings it to
We'll
life.
remember the story. You go, oh, yes, I remember that. And then when you see it, you see the characters and people's lives, how people's lives were affected. And I think, you know, Joanne Froggatt's character, when she came home from her shift, and the kid's like, Mummy, and she goes, no, wait. And she runs upstairs to change her clothes before even hugging her children. Those are the things that you go, wow.
Yeah, I think those are the things that the drama did a good job of doing. It dramatised the stories of the people behind the scenes. Like, we see the doctors and nurses and we can do one thing, we can clap, can't we? But actually seeing what they were going through in their own homes, being separated from their children, from their loved ones, and also just seeing the inside impact within the hospitals. Also, that period of the thing that I found in terms of it being frenetic was they were frenetic. Yeah. They were getting phone calls from different people, one person saying this, 1 minute the notice board would say this, the next minute the notice board would change. So they'd be like, well, where is the PPE? Oh, actually, no, it's now been taken away from you because it's now only hot zones. So they were in the midst of it, in the thick of it, everything changing on a daily basis. And they, you know, even now, even now we're looking at our doctors and nurses and we know what they've been through. Some of them are still dealing with the trauma of that and we're still not paying them what they deserve, just saying.
Yeah, and isn't the other thing that we're in the middle now of the COVID inquiry? Yeah. So as the COVID inquiry has been going on for months and cabinet ministers and civil servants have been giving evidence, it's all been laid bare. The actual complete confusion at the centre of government, not just the rule breaking, the WhatsApp messaging, the fact that half the messages have mysteriously disappeared. And when you think that we were at home, and I was looking back on what I wrote at the time, and obviously I was ranting on about the fact that the government seemed to be arbitrarily imposing all these rules on us, and so many of us just went along with them. Just went along.
Well, apparently the doctor, Dr. Rachel Clark, she started writing these experiences down just for herself at her kitchen table, just to kind of get it out. But apparently it was after she saw the news of Dominic Cummings taking that trip to Barnard Castle that she was so enraged that she started, you know, she made it a kind of memoir and wrote a book. About it, because she was so cross that that's what was happening with them in the hospitals, you know, making their own PPE out of bin bags.
You get the feeling that although government ministers during that time went on hospital visits, they didn't really see what was really happening. They didn't really see the front line. They didn't really understand what was happening with PPP, other than giving contracts to all their mates, of course, to make a load of money, which has all been uncovered now. But you get the feeling we had the nightly broadcasts, didn't we, which were handed out to us like tablets in stone, like Moses on the Mount or whatever, and we were all sitting at home waiting for the next instalment. But at the hospitals, on the front line, it was completely chaotic.
The scene... The scene that really struck home for me is when one of the doctors had to call the wife of a man who'd passed away, and you just hear him say, I'm so sorry he didn't make it. And then there's a pause and he went, I'm so sorry, but I'm afraid we can't let you in to see him. And you just hear her crying. And you're like, so many families went through that, which we also forget. So ITV's Breathtaking. It is on ITV X, so you can actually watch all the episodes, but it continues tonight at 9 on ITV1.